chosen to test this station's destructive power on your home planet of Alderaan. Then name the system.
Loki religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blast strike coming up on Alderaan.
You may fire when ready.
Welcome to Alderaan Explosion, the Explosion Network's official countdown to Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. It's 99 days until release. My name is Dylan Blight, your Jedi Master, and joining me, my Padawans, Ashley Hobley.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here to talk about the universally loved Star Wars.
And Ciaran Marchant.
Do I get to kill the younglings?
Yeah, that's fucking disturbing.
That's not disturbing. A no.
That is no, it's a no. I just want to clarify for the sake of clarify for the sake of this podcast that the Explosion Network and I myself do not condone killing young children. Yeah. Just to clarify, I mean, we're at 30 seconds in, and this is what I'm fucking up to for this thing.
It's what you
do. You need to put your disclaimers in at the start, so.
We need to get this out there. They're going to wait till episode 3. They're going to be like, is anyone going to talk about killing younglings on this podcast? We're just putting it out there. And yes, we will.
But we don't endorse it.
Well, that's what you have to look forward to this season, because this is, of course, Alderaan Explosion. And this first episode, we're going to be discussing what we want to know about the Rise, what we do know about Rise of Skywalker so far, discussing both the teaser trailer and the behind the scenes, or not really behind the scenes, the featurette, whatever they've called it, the D23 thing, discussing all the information we have so far about the movie itself. But first, I want to go over the general outline for this show in case you've never listened to it before, or you have listened to it before and you're like, really? They're doing the thing again? Like, how do you how do you get away with doing that twice? And the answer is because we can. So to quickly run down how this season of Alderaan Explosion is going to work, and a lot of this is subject to change, just kind of depending on, if information comes out, trailers, news, anything comes up, whatever else. But this is the general outline for this season, right? So as I said, today we're going to be discussing basically about what we know so far about the Rise of Skywalker. Next episode, we'll be talking about the Phantom Menace, focusing a lot on Palpatine, and then also talking about the announcement of the Kenobi movie. Episode 3, we'll be talking about Attack of Clones. Episode 4, we'll be talking about Revenge of the Sith, of course. Episode 5, we'll be talking about Solo, of a topic focusing on Lando, and if any of the stuff from that movie will carry over and inspire how his performance, or the way he's written for the new movie, of course. Episode 6, we'll be talking about Rebels episodes from season 4, 12, 13, 15, and 16. Discussion about the world between worlds, which if you haven't seen that before, it's a hot topic of discussion for the Rise of Skywalker, which we'll get to. Episode 7, we're going to be talking about Rogue One. Episode 8, we're going to be talking about New Hope. Episode 9, we're going to be talking about Empire Strikes Back, and we'll be talking about if Boba Fett will return for The Mandalorian. Episode 10, Return of the Jedi, focused discussion on Luke and the balance that wasn't brought by him. Episode 11 is to be determined topics at the moment. Hopefully, though, it'll be some sort of Jedi Fallen Order discussion, plus talk about the Mandalorian, maybe. Some combination of that sort of stuff, though, because that's all happening around that episode. Episode 12, we'll be talking about The Force Awakens. Episode 13, The Last Jedi. Episode 14 will be the night before, basically, of course, the week before Rise of Skywalker releases. So we'll be giving our predictions, final thoughts, these sorts of things. And then, of course, the season will wrap up with episode 15, where we talk all about the Rise of Skywalker. Now, of course, we have, in the first season of this, 2 years ago, we did the run through. We watched episodes 1 through to 7 at the time. We put Rogue One in and episode 4 in the same episode, though this time they are split up. And when was coming back to do this season, at first it was like, well, we shouldn't do that again because we have done it. Like, how can you do it? But at the same time, I'm like, it is 2 years ago, like
the world's changed in that time. Star Wars has changed.
Star Wars has changed. Everyone hates it now.
There was before The Last Jedi and there was after The Last Jedi.
Yes. And now you're going to have 2 different seasons of Alderaan Explosion where we talk about and discuss the movies from a post-Last Jedi angle and before Last Jedi angles, those sorts of things. But yeah, so we'll run through that stuff again. But ultimately, the other announcement for this season is that this will be the last season. Alderaan Explosion is ending after this, and I think that makes sense given that. Yeah, come on, I knew you'd fucking say that. Alderaan Explosion will be ending because this episode 9 is the last movie we are getting for some time.
Is it though?
Fucking hell.
So just everybody keep your ears out for the new Star Wars podcast that we release under a different name.
Naboo.
It's just
Explosion.
Alderaan Explosion. Yeah. Or that's, we got plenty to
Naboo
do.
Explosion. Whatever planet explodes.
Or Gungan
whatever
explosion.
Death Star. Yeah, whatever Starkiller Base number 2 in Rise of Skywalker blows up.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a Starkiller Base number 2. They wouldn't do that again.
So you say, but we'll have that discussion in a minute. But yeah, this will be the last one. That doesn't mean we won't be doing any more Star Wars content on the Explosion Network, of course. It just means that Alderaan Explosion, this show and the point of this show, which served as a countdown towards the new movie, this will be the final one. So there was another reason to make sure we rewatch all the movies, because if it's the final one, kind of makes sense to go for them all
And
again.
the three of us have all agreed that after this, we'll never watch Star Wars movies ever again.
Well, you can speak for yourself. But okay, so let's get into the Rise of Skywalker, and we're going to start with the initial teaser trailer, and I kind of just want to go over what we see in it, get your overall thoughts on the teaser trailer itself, and kind of discuss some things that come up in it, of course. So before we kind of go, not shot by shot, but kind of shot by shot, Ash, do you remember when this teaser trailer dropped, how you felt at the time? How do you feel about it now? Do you think it's a good teaser trailer? Still get you hyped? How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I think it's still a good teaser trailer. It didn't reveal too much. We still know barely anything about the movie. It's great. We only really saw characters we already had been introduced to, no new characters, and then they hit you with that last moment. Which, if you haven't, go over to youtube.com/Explosion Network, search for Rise of Skywalker, and see Dylan's awesome reactions to that trailer. From what, 2-3 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, it was very early in the morning. Yeah. Ciaran, what? How do you feeling about this one? How do you feel at the time?
Good. I find all Star Wars trailers especially, but I think Disney trailers especially, I always find them interesting for, say, Star Wars and for Marvel movies, just because of the amount of alterations they make to the trailers. So there's no sense, you can't, it's more looking at the trailer and seeing what's the overall message they're trying to get across, not looking at exact things that are happening, because some of those will be happening in different locations, some might not happen at all. It was a good trailer. I thought it was a good trailer, and then the Palpatine laughter hit, and then I thought it became a great trailer. Like, it became that thing that I think there is a portion of the Star Wars fan base that it had lost, that it kind of regained back with that single laughter.
I think there's a portion of the Star Wars fan base that won't watch Star Wars until Rian Johnson's actually just like killed or something like that.
Well, that's a different portion. That's a far away portion that we don't look at directly in the eyes. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good trailer.
It's I agree with what you like saying about the Disney trailers. Every single time, and I've been saying this for quite some time now, when it comes to your Marvel movies or your Star Wars or what have you, that I get zero fear of spoilers really from Marvel trailers or Star Wars trailers or anything like that these days, because I just think they've kind of proven over the X amount of years to me, even all the way back to Force Awakens, that they don't really put many spoilers in their trailers, and they quite often use alternate takes or deleted scenes in a lot of the trailers. Like, even if you go back and think about the Force Awakens original teaser, it ends with that shot of Kylo like walking through the forest, and then he like throws that arm out and lights up his lightsaber for the first time. That shot isn't used in the movie. It's fucking awesome in that teaser trailer, and it's the front cover of the Force Awakens Art of book. But it's not in the movie at all. So it's like it's always funny to me how they have these so many awesome shots that they can afford to just use something like that just as a.
Yeah. How much money do you think they spent on that shot? A lot. paying for crew
Well, I mean,
and actors and everything every minute.
Just think
and then
every
just to
second.
toss it in the bin or just use it for marketing purposes.
Yeah. Every second's like
It's like that shot
$100
in
or something.
the Infinity War of everybody at the end running at the camera with the Hulk that was never used. It's like,
Yeah, there's
how long did they spend rendering that shot? Which money did the special effects team spend on that? And then it's not in the movie.
Yeah. I was thinking about like even the Endgame trailer, like the marketing for Endgame I thought was really, really fucking good. Because they basically only used stuff from the start of the movie. They gave away barely anything.
There was nobody knew, or I don't even think many people had much of an inkling about the time jump in Infinity War. Like, I don't think anybody knew about that part, or like spoilers. The pacing of. Well, there's spoilers. I'm sorry. Actually, speaking of spoilers, if you haven't seen, I watched recently. I saw the Blu-ray trailer for Infinity War, and it angered me because it spoils like the entire movie, and I'm like,
yeah, the spoilers on that's over because
yeah, but it's still annoying, and I'm getting yelled at for spoilers here. But, like, I don't think there was an inkling to that, and so I think they do such a good job of being able to portray what they're trying to give with this movie, but at the same time, keep everything close to their chest.
Yeah. All right, so let's dive into this teaser trailer and kind of go over what it shows.
We've passed on all we know. 1,000 generations live in you now.
It opens very much like the Force Awakens teaser, except for this time you get Rey. Is the one in the sand. Like, of course, the Force Awakens original teaser, you heard this heavy breathing. That turned out to be Finn, and then the camera shows him like popping up on the camera in the on Jakku there, and looking around and whatever else, and it cuts the shot of the stormtroopers and that sort of stuff. This one just opens with this huffing and puffing, and it's Rey, and then it cuts to her. So I enjoy that they do this thing where they quite often play on what you know from the trailers, because they know that Star Wars fans actually watch these fucking things so many times that they'll just automatically, because the first time I'm watching this, I'm like, oh, it's like the Force Awakens teaser straight away. So then the next thing we notice is because it shows you that she has Luke's lightsaber again. And a lot of people on the internet have kind of gone a bit crazy over this one because, of course, it got destroyed.
One that she threw in the ocean?
It's the one that got destroyed when her and Kylo were like fighting over it.
Yeah.
In The Last Jedi, before she fucks off after fighting in the Red Room and whatever you want to call it, the Snoke Room.
Yeah.
So that's where the lightsaber got destroyed. And everyone's like, oh, it was left there. How could she get it back? Blah, blah, blah. How could she fix it? All these sorts of things. And I'm just like, it's not that big of a deal to me. I'm just like, well, I'll watch the movie and find out. Like, yeah, she's fixed it somehow. I don't know. Like, I'm just willing to wait. But at the same time, I had another theory. And I guess since we've seen more material of her with that lightsaber, like on a hilt and stuff, it kind of kills this theory I had originally. But I remember the first time I watched this teaser trailer, I was like, and everyone was flipping their shit over this. I was like, but wait, maybe they having that lightsaber there in that shot just for the marketing purposes, but in reality, she actually has a different lightsaber. And I would say that I'm still open to that being
I still think it's a viable, even with the marketing. Like, I think Disney are that much of a trolls, or they like fucking with their audiences that much that they would do something like that.
Well, so is J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams is an ultimate fucking troll for trying to make people think things that isn't happening that is happening. But yeah, so I'm like, because in the D23 footage and stuff, we've seen her with that lightsaber again, and I'm like, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm still a little bit like, I wouldn't put it past them to just actually have all these shots not show her with a new lightsaber or something like that, because they don't want to give away what it is yet. So we'll see, of course. Then we get Luke saying, we've passed on all we know, 1,000 generations live in you now, but this is your fight. So does anyone have any ideas of what exactly you think? A, do you think he's actually talking to Rey? And B, what do you think that actually means?
I think he is talking to Rey. I think this is because Rey has the Book of the Wills now, as we saw at the end of the end of Last Jedi. I think what this means is we've passed to you the knowledge of the Jedi Order, but you're not a Jedi anymore. Like, you're not... This isn't about the Jedi anymore. This is whatever you're creating. This is your own thing, because I think we're very established on Rey being very well aware of the Jedi fucking up. Like, The Last Jedi was Luke. And so this is Rey's battle of her own to kind of establish something in the world.
Yeah, well, there is that rumor for the title, I guess, and this is a good point to ask, I guess. Should check before, but I forgot. What do you all think of the title, and what do you think that actually refers to? Because a lot of people seem to think that the title actually implies that the Rise of Skywalker is going to be Rey starting a new generation of Jedis, but they're called Skywalkers.
I would hate it if they're called Skywalkers. I would really despise it. I think what it means is Rise of Skywalker means the rising of that story that was being told at the end of The Last Jedi. That myth, that legend that is growing and growing into something that is empowering Rey and empowering her mission, is those stories of the legendary Jedi Luke Skywalker and him standing up to Kylo and the First Order.
Yeah. Ash, you have any thoughts on the title or what Luke says here?
Yeah, I mean, it's super ambiguous. It could mean a new type of Jedi. It could be referring to Kylo Ren's redemption, #Bendemption, or who knows. But I mean, as to what he said, I think, yeah, just that as much as Luke can tell her all sorts of different things, it's down to what Rey does now. He can't do anything, so that's kind of the messaging I got.
Yeah, I think what Ciaran said is kind of where I fall on it, because I of course we'll talk about Last Jedi when we get there, but I really like The Last Jedi, and I really like the way that ending that movie ends with this kind of like Luke they imply that Luke could kind of start a next generation of Jedi without even being around, because the stories that the story of him spreading throughout the galaxy is giving like people hope, and that's the whole Broom Boy thing. So, which a lot of people don't get and just make fun of, and they're like, "Oh, Broom Kid, blah 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 blah." But like, I think I love that scene because it's just so subtle. Like to see him actually force pull that broom towards him. It's not like they cut to a close up of it or anything like that. So, and then him just looking out and seeing that ship taking off and all this sort of thing. So, I love how that's so subtle about a message of hope spread throughout the galaxy kind of thing. And the message of hope is the core concept from day one, of course, of Star Wars. So,
do you ever think that the general public of Star Wars viewers that aren't diehard Star Wars fans, that don't watch everything, they don't buy into all the books, or they don't watch everything you could possibly watch about Star Wars, do you think for them the meaning behind this little kid having hope and being able to force pull isn't impactful? Because for the general viewer, Jedis have always been around in their, for what they see. There's always been a Jedi in Star Wars movies. There's always somebody representing a lot. Even if you break Jedi down, not to just the Order, but somebody using a lightsaber or using the Force. Do you think the impact is a bit lost because they're like, oh, it doesn't matter. There's always been Jedi, even though, in the movie itself, there isn't this Jedi Order anymore. This isn't really a thing.
I always thought the problem that people have with believing that sort of stuff just comes down to, you can pull this down to people having a problem with Rey and how powerful she is, and the idea of believing that Rey doesn't have any past, and people struggling with that as an idea. I always thought it came down to because a lot of people watch this stuff and believe Jedis are superheroes, basically, and by that I mean a lot rarer than what they actually are within the concept of the universe. Because in reality, there's thousands of Jedis when they're at their peak. Sure, there's not millions of Jedi, so they're not super common, but people being Force sensitive isn't actually as rare as it's presented to you within the movies. Mm-hmm. What you get in the extended material is the idea that people being Force sensitive is actually it's I don't know what the actual maths would be. It's but 1% of every fucking planet or something. It's a lot more common than the movies have you believe, where they set out this whole idea from day dot of Luke being a super You know, like he's got the Force. Like this is crazy. The only other person who has the Force is Vader, Obi-Wan, Yoda. You know, like it introduces such a small
The hundreds
core
of people we
concept
saw
of
fighting in
character.
Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, but I still think just people struggle so much with the idea. It's like you see the Broom Kid, and then people are like, oh, making fun. Like, how could he have the Force? Like, but then the whole point is like, well, yeah, like it, literally anyone could. You know, fucking the rich kid on the planet could be Force sensitive. The
It's
poor
like,
kid could
well,
be Force sensitive.
You've had such a long period of time where when the Jedi were in full height, they were sending people to go and find Force-sensitive users, and they would scour and test large populations and large, you know, small random villages that would happen. They'd go and test them, and that's not happening anymore. That doesn't mean that Force-sensitive users are no longer there. It just means nobody's looking for it.
Yeah, even in is it Clone Wars or Rebels? I can't remember. One of those things they go. No, it would have been Rebels. Yeah, it was Rebels. They go over the whole idea of, you know, just post Episode 4 in Rebels timeline stuff. The Emperor's still sending out the Inquisitors to find the Force sensitive babies, and he's literally stealing away these fucking babies that are Force sensitive and taking them away from their families and stuff, which in the scheme of things is a super fucked up story for a kid's show. But yeah, like he was just continually trying to wipe out that line, you know, so the Jedi could never make a return. And I guess, you know, like you do that so long, eventually the galaxy just kind of like died out of Force sensitive users, I guess, to a point. And then I get The Force Awakens is about the Force Awakening.
But did the Force really awaken?
There's been an awakening.
Like,
I think it's
the Force awakened within Rey, but it doesn't mean it was gone.
I think it's more that when Star Wars was introduced, Force users were rarer. Obviously, Luke was the first Jedi in.
Yeah, they were like magic wizards. They were like,
However, yeah,
you know,
so
Merlin.
and of course, he was connected to Darth Vader, so that, but like, oh, that must be some sort of heritage
like
element. to it.
super heritage. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and because
That's
people
what I mean,
want
like-
to keep the prequels so erased from their minds, they forget
Whereas the
that
prequels
they're
actually
a
gives
dime
us-
a dozen.
Yeah. Whereas the prequels, including like the Clone Wars animated series, is actually the most rich of knowledge of canon material that actually exists in all of the spectrum. So anyway, the trailer continues. It says every generation has a legend on the screen, which every time I see, I'm like, oh. And then we see this tie off in the distance. It comes speeding in, and we see Rey light up her saber, and then she starts running back. And it cuts to a shot of the black gloves of whoever is driving this thing. Everyone at the time kind of guessed it was Kylo, and I'll come back to this when we talk about the D23 thing, because I think the D23 thing kind of confirms it is actually Kylo. So come back to that one. And it looks like a TIE Interceptor as well, which is the exact sort of ship that's in the D23 thing. And it comes in as Rey, and she does this fucking massive backflip over it, and it fades out, which is still, I've watched this thing several times, and I rewatched it when I was writing down these notes, obviously, and rewatching it again, when she flips over that thing and the music kicks in and kind of just fades out, it's like, oh, this is porn. Like this is all I need out of movies. It's just shots like this. And I also think it's super exciting because the thing about having this shot in the teaser, it's very prequel-ish. There's so much prequel-ish shit happening in this movie. And by that, I mean, prequels was the backflips, the fucking, all the, you know, the Jedi crazy flippy moves and all this sort of stuff. The original trilogy didn't have any of that stuff, the original set of movies. And then both of the previous sequel trilogy, Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, haven't had that stuff either. So seeing her do this flip was automatically, I'm like, that is some prequel era, like Jedi move shit that we're seeing right here, you know? That's not influenced by the original trilogy. That is prequel influence stuff. Absolutely love it though. Fantastic shot. And then we see a bunch of other shots as well happen. So we see a ship coming towards the city. I have no idea. I couldn't make out what the ship was, or I can't really tell what it is or anything. Someone on the internet's figured out what it is. Good for you. Better than me. And then I don't know what the city is either. it's just a bunch of lights and whatever else. But,
Hopefully it's all
then we
new stuff.
yeah, I think it presumably a new thing. Yeah, I guess, or not. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's an
actually
old thing, I don't
Tatooine.
realize. Maybe they've fixed things up in that place.
It's the other
then we
side
see
of the planet.
Maybe we see Kylo getting Kylo without his helmet on, running through this like forest sequence with stormtroopers fighting by his side, and he fucking like clotheslines someone with his lightsaber, which looks really awesome, of course, because it's in slow motion and everything.
Why doesn't it slice through him?
I guess because he like pushes with his hand at the same time, and like, you know, like
So he made an effort to not slice him in half.
I guess, yeah. I mean, it seems in my mind, it's like hit him. It would have cut like halfway through his body, and then he pushes him down with the saber, like just sitting at half of his body instead of going all the way through. But they're not going to show you a close up of that because
PG.
you know, these are kids. These are kids movies. So then we see Kylo's helmet is being fixed with some sort of red element of some kind. I think that whatever
Welding.
this is going to be. Well, yeah, but I think that they could just weld it back. I think whatever's going on here, whoever's doing this has to be some important aspect to the movie to me.
I mean,
I'm
the
like-
interesting thing is that he kept all the pieces of the helmet after smashing it.
Well, the most interesting to me is he's fixing it at all. Or well, hold on. The other thing is is he actually the one fixing the helmet? You know?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Like, how do we know
Because he
someone
doesn't wear
else?
it with like the. I don't think
No.
we've seen a shot of him.
No, exactly. So is someone else fixing up his helmet and taking his helmet is the thing. Because whoever's hands it is some alien species, I guess. It's got like fur or hair on it or something like that. And it's being infused with all this red stuff, which I think would be done on purpose. And I'm hoping there's actually more significance to it too than just it looks cool, I guess. Although ultimately it could come down to, well, it's just a way to sell a different variation of the Kylo Ren helmet in the movie.
Yep.
But I definitely feel like if Kylo Ren is repairing his own helmet, that means he's actually kind of going backwards from where his character went in The Last Jedi. Because in that movie, he smashes the helmet as like a character thing to escape from that whole thing because he spits it with Snoke, obviously, and whatever else. So in my mind, if he is actually the one fixing the helmet, that means he's kind of regressing back to the way he was before. And obviously he used the mask as a like way to help him get in that like evil hatred persona or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? That,
Yeah.
like that's what he had to use the mask
Or
for.
to feel closer to his grandfather.
Yeah, I guess. There was let me check out this wild theory because of course there's lots of
Sure.
wild theories to this movie. There is a theory that people have, and they've had since Last Jedi as well. This theory was going around before Last Jedi came out. There's a theory going around that because Kylo speaks to the helmet, right? We know this. You never hear the helmet speak back, obviously, and you always just thought it was just him speaking to it and blah 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 blah, and he's just a bit crazy. But what if the helmet actually did speak back in a voice, and he thought it was his grandfather Vader? But the voice that's actually speaking back to him this entire time was actually that of Palpatine through the helmet.
But would that break some of the storytelling of the other movies where we've been seeing it from his point of view?
What do you mean?
Like it's almost like there are scenes where he is the main character. He is the I guess the vessel that the audience is seeing everything through. It's from his perspective. So wouldn't it be weird that something from his perspective has just been cut completely out from the audience's view?
I don't think you're ever actually seeing through his perspective. I feel like all of the movies always just, I don't feel like you're seeing it from
But
either
it's being
Rey or
told
him
it's
or-
being told from that character's kind of point of view. Like when you're watching a Luke scene from like the original trilogy where Luke is the main character, even though Obi-Wan is telling Luke all this information, really Obi-Wan is telling the audience through Luke. And everything we see is from Luke's perspective.
I mean, I guess so. I don't really buy into this theory, so I can't do much to argue for it.
Yeah, that's
to be
fine.
honest.
That's
but
fair. That's fair.
but it is one that was kicking around the Last Jedi time. And at that time, I was more open to it, where I was like, oh, but then after Last Jedi, I was like, no, that's not a thing. But at the time, I was like, oh, maybe. But it's so funny that people have been theorizing about Palpatine's return for so long, and then it's actually happened. I mean, when I did my Force, I read an article back on my website before we started the Explosion Network, like my top 5 predictions for the Force Awakens before the Force Awakens came out, and one of my predictions for that movie was that Palpatine will come back to life at the end of the movie, and that was based solely on one of the comics that they had done for the lead up to Force Awakens, in which they had this very centric story about the Emperor looking into like rebirth and all this sorts of stuff. So now I'm at the point where I haven't actually gone back to read a lot of this stuff, but I'm like, there's so much stuff from that Force Awakens extended material stuff that teased all this stuff to the point where I was like, that's it, I'm sold. Palpatine's coming back at the end of the Force Awakens. And that didn't happen. I was like, oh, I guess that was all just for nothing. And now that's confirmed, I'm like, have they been planning this shit for this long that they were actually just out in the open teasing this since before the Force Awakens even fucking released? Like, that is long con, crazy. Man. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's been a long con, or it just worked out really fucking well for them. I'm not sure. So then, but what was up to? Helmet repaired, blah blah blah. We see Finn and Poe on a rock. This is a planet we'll talk about a bit later. BB-8 and the new droid Dio. Dio's little cutie, I think. I give the hashtag cuties to Dio. I enjoy robot. I enjoy a new cute robot, you know. I'm a sucker. Then we see Lando driving the Falcon, of course, with Chewie. Fine shot. I'm going to be honest, like, the Lando being back in this movie it's not blowing me away. You know what I mean? I'm not like...
Do you think it was something that was spurred by the fact of Lando's inclusion in Han Solo?
I think
it's fan service. Everyone's like, hey, where's Lando?
Yeah, like, people have been asking for a long time, so I think his scenes are going to be very minimal. I think that it's definitely fan service, but also from a story perspective, it could potentially have stuff to do with Kylo, because like he is basically his, you know, it's Uncle Lando. Like, that's how they've introduced in the extended universe material, like especially the long shot book or whatever it is. They went over the whole thing, of course, like Leia and Han are raising this child, and Lando is around sometimes, and he's Uncle Lando to young Ben and this sort of thing. So he's kind of a close family member in some ways. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's a story way. That's a way they could take the story for Lando as a character. But I highly doubt he'll actually be in the movie much, because he can't get around much. Dude's old, you know. Like, they'll put him in the Falcon. They'll get a shot. People
we all
will be
saw
happy
the clips of him in Dancing with the Stars. It's not pretty.
Yeah. So then we see Poe and Finn with C-3PO running away. Well, not running away. They're on this speeder barrage thing or whatever it is. They're getting away from jetpack stormtroopers on a sand planet, which is presumably the same sand planet we'll talk about from D23 footage, actually. But it's the first time we're seeing jetpack troopers within the live action movies properly, I think, unless I'm forgetting something.
Unless you're not counting Boba and Jango Fett.
No, not counting them. I mean, like,
I don't think there's been any clone troopers with jetpacks either. Because
you see him in animated stuff quite a bit.
Yes, a lot.
With with jetpacks and stuff. So then we get B-Wing maybe crashing into a planet, it seems. Leia holding a medal, presumably, I'm going to guess, Han's medal. It would make more sense for her to be reminiscing over Han's medal than it would Luke's, I think, if you had to pick one medal. Maybe it's Chewie's. Fuck it. Like, they're like, all these people keep
Chewie never got one. That was the problem.
They're finally going to confirm. They'll be like, we did go over this in the comic book, but since everyone keeps asking and doesn't want to read that comic book, we'll make sure to include it in the last movie. Sure, fuck it. Then we see a shot of her hugging Rey. Of course, the thing that's super interesting about this movie and Leia is that basically they've said that they went over a bunch of deleted footage from Leia that Carrie Fisher recorded before she died, R.I.P. of course, and JJ has said that they kind of wrote her dialogue around what they had, which I think is a super massive puzzle to go about doing. And then you can even see with this shot, it's like the shot of Leia they had from the front is probably one they had from The Force Awakens. It seems like an alternate take to her smiling as Rey takes off near the end of that movie. It looks very similar, but it was probably just an alternate take. And then, of course, they've just digitally put her in somewhere else. And then, of course, they've probably got Rey to come in and hug someone and then digitally alter that to be, like that's basically how all of her stuff would have been done. I guess lots of like weird. It's kind of going to be crazy to see how it all comes out, to be honest. I think it was a massive effort for them to actually sit down and be like, you know what? We've got enough footage here we can do this. We can work around what we've got here. And I think we can make it work. So.
Are you holding your judgment on that until after we've seen it? Or because I know when we finished up Alderaan Explosion after Last Jedi, one of the things we kind of all agreed on was that this movie was just going to end with like a couple sentences in the scroller about Leia passing away. How do you feel about it?
I was sold on that idea because
Yes.
I felt like that was a really, as far as you can go with doing it, like because I wouldn't want to see her character die because I thought that would be a bad way to do it. But I felt like if they just put it in the pre-scroll, like that would have been a nice way to just be like General Leia Organa has passed away or Jail fought valiantly and died or whatever. I thought that way made the most sense when they said that she was actually going to be in it. And I watched that interview. JJ's talked about it a bunch of times, like how they've gone about it. I'm like I'm happy that she's in it, I guess. But at the same time, I'm like, is it going to change the way? Is it going to make scenes feel weird because the dialogue just isn't, it's recorded from other times. But at the same time, I've watched like I've watched Fast and Furious 7 and I think that movie is like the pinnacle of like how you go about fixing, or not,
but a lot of that footage they shot with his brothers.
Yeah, they did. But at the same time, they also rewrote a lot of the movie around what they had and scenes. Like there were scenes of dialogue that they had, of course. Like so, it's actually Paul Walker's voice. So they had dialogue already recorded, but they didn't finish the movie yet. So then they had to kind of rewrite scenes to match to what they had, and then they used his brothers to just as a mocap kind of person and then put that dialogue in his face over it and these sorts of things. So they had a similar sort of challenge, a little bit different, of course, because they, as you were saying, they used the brothers and whatever, but they still went in and rewrote the movie somewhat around what they had, which is kind of what they've done here. So I don't know. In JJ, I trust,
I feel like it'll be a make or break element to the film. Either it'll just pull people out, or it'll work perfectly.
Yeah. Well, it's also going to be super interesting because from day dot, so from like before episode 7 released and when they were talking about this new trilogy, they always said that episode 9 was going to be Carrie's most important big film. This was apparently the one where she, from the day one, they said that this is the one she's going to have the most to do within, like I guess in their overall arching story that they had set out. Yeah, their plan. So I don't know if that's changed. I don't know if it'll still feature the most of it. I would say that, of course, she was in The Last Jedi quite a lot, So it'll be interesting to see if that's cut down drastically or they were like, no, fuck it. We've got all this footage. She's still going to be in as much as we said she would be. So have to find out. And then we hear Luke say, "We will always be with you," as we see our main group of heroes approaching what looks to be the remains of the second Death Star, crashing in the water somewhere. And then Luke finishing with, "No one's ever really gone." Now, at the time, of course, when this teaser released, we were all like, I'm like, that's the Death Star, but we weren't 100% sure, I guess. The D23 footage confirms, as far as I'm concerned, that it is the Death Star for sure. So I'm not really up for the debate on if it is or it isn't. Does anyone actually have any doubts if it is actually the Death Star? Or do you have doubts if it's the second Death Star? Because as far as I'm concerned, it's the second Death Star, not the first one. Like,
it's a Death Star.
It's a Death Star. It's a third Death Star we didn't know about.
No, I think it would make more sense if it was the second Death Star. I think, but then the problem is the way they've pictured the Death Stars blowing up. It's been a bit.
Yeah, I'm happy to have that retcon though. I can put that clear. Like when we get to rewatching Jedi and I see that thing blow up, I'll just be like, yeah, but it's a big explosion at the front, and
that's
it's
as good as
like,
they could do back then.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they did it now, it would fracture into pieces.
It's the reverse mullet. Party at the back, business at the front. That's a very Australian thing to chuck out on this podcast.
Just a mullet?
No, it's that the dudes who have the mullet, they always grow the mullet at the back.
Yeah.
And then they have a nice haircut at the front, and they always say party at the back, business at the front.
That's an American thing though as well. It's not that Aussie.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Why is it reversed?
No, I'm saying the Death Star was party at the front, business at the back, where we didn't see it fully explode and drop down into the water on one of Endor's moons. Is what we're saying happened here. Yeah, so if it has dropped there, we're going to say that it's one of Endor's moons. It's
Sure.
not actually Endor, because Endor is a gas planet. So it would still be one of Endor's couple moons. I'm not actually sure how many they have, but it's a couple. The line also that Luke says
Could we
here,
see
will always-
Ewoks? That
Yes.
just crossed my mind.
I do want to see Ewoks. I like Ewoks. I'm saying I watched Return of the Jedi as a kid. Fucking love Ewoks, you know. So I'm happy to see Ewoks return. See Leia reunited with fucking Wicket. That's
I don't know
heartwarming
if they've
shit.
got. I don't know what the lifespan of Ewoks is.
Hundreds of years. The line that Luke says, "We'll always be with you," is taken from The Last Jedi. That's what. We will always be with you. The no one's ever really gone line. That's taken from Last Jedi. That's why he says to Leia, like right at the end where they're having their final moment together thing. You know, he's like, no one's ever really gone. So that's not a fresh line, although some of this is. Or they could have re-recorded it. I'm not actually sure.
I feel like.
And then,
it's
of course, yeah. Then, of course, we hear the crackling of a laugh begin, and it belongs to Palpatine himself. Of course, I always found the interesting thing for this teaser trailer is people who watch the teaser outside of the Star Wars Celebration screening were you're left going, is that supposed to be Palpatine? Like, it's left like open. They don't actually confirm it. Whereas I'm so happy that what they did at Star Wars Celebration, where they actually had Ian McDermott come out and walk out onto stage and do the whole play it again and then walk off just to confirm that it is actually him. I absolutely love that, because like there's so much to speculate about this movie as is. I would have hated if they just left it at the cackle, and then even if we're like 99% sure, there still would have been that part of like speculation around, but what if it's not him? You know, what if it's someone else? So I'm glad that we just have this confirmed. And of course it's confirmed because it becomes the poster, like him, Palpatine looking over Kylo and Rey, of course. So he's a big part of the marketing now, so they had to get the way pretty fast. So that was the teaser trailer. So let's get on to talking about what they showed for the D23 special look here. The first bunch of footage, of course, didn't belong to the new movie at all. It's old footage. It starts by showing a bunch of stuff from the original movies, 4, 5, 6, and then it starts showing the prequel trilogy stuff here. I appreciate how they actually edited this, because it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They just do them in release order. I kind of like how they did that instead of switching around the order to have it in proper order or whatever you call it. And I also like how it sells that this movie is, as JJ has said in many interviews, and so has Kathleen Kennedy, they've both said many times, reiterated time over time at events, that this movie is not the ending of the trilogy. It's not. It's JJ said when he took on the role, he didn't look at it as the final chapter of 7, 8, 9. He said it's the final chapter of that, plus it's the final chapter of 1 through to 6 as well. You know, it's the final chapter of the Skywalker saga, as they're putting it. So, and he said in interviews when he got asked to do the movie, he had to really think about it, because he knew that as big of a challenge as The Force Awakens was, and as big as a task it was to take that movie on, the idea of taking on the final chapter of this saga now, they were like, that's a massive task to come. And I still think every time they say this, and of course because Palpatine's in it, as far as I'm concerned, Palpatine's a prequel character. I don't give two fucks if, like, I'm well aware that of course he's in 4 and 6, 5 and 6. 5 briefly, of course he's a lot more in Return of the Jedi. But as far as I'm concerned, the Palpatine that we all know, that we all have an idea of as a character, and the way we know that character and how evil he is, that all comes from watching him in the prequels. So I claim Palpatine as a prequel character. And that tied with the whole jump and everything we're seeing, I'm really hoping that we'll actually return to at least one prequel planet in this movie, or at least get returned of some more prequel era shit in this. And I think we will, because
could the Sand Planet be the planet that?
Because we know the name of it.
Just because we know the name of it, we can't be the end of the Attack of the Clones. I can't remember the name of the planet.
No, it's
No?
not that.
Okay.
No.
They could have renamed the planet.
No, I hope we return to Naboo, is what I'm thinking, because it would make perfect sense to return to Naboo. It's Palpatine's homeworld. In extended universe material, they had the whole Operation Cinder, I think is what it's called, which they cover in both. They cover that operation in comic books. They covered it in the Aftermath series of books. It's also the main plot of the Battlefront 2's campaign, covers the thing. And it's all to do with Palpatine basically wanting to, in his death, like having this backup planet. And it all involves with him wanting to destroy his home planet for whatever fucking means. So that it's all about saving Naboo. But that's his home planet, right? So it's important to him. It's also a key planet from episode 1. So I think having it show up and be in a location in the final chapter that was from this technically not the first, but the first chapter when you watch them through, I think that's fitting thematically. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that does make sense.
I feel like
Because
we might get into it next episode. If you have Gungan show up in this last episode, I feel like people will lose their shit.
I want
in a bad
Gungans.
way.
I will be so fucking happy to see some Gungans. You ain't gonna see Jar Jar because he's dead, but
Is he though?
no. Well, I can't remember if they confirmed he died in the books or I think he
Didn't
actually
he have some? Wasn't there a thing going
I
around
could've
that he had
sworn
some
there
really
was
messed
story.
up death?
he had. Yeah, I think he died. Like they did cover it in the books. Pretty much after post episode 3, he basically ended up living a horrible life and dying, I think. It's like a horrible life. It's not great for him. But so then after all this stuff, we hear the whole 1,000 generations live in you now, but this is your fight once again by Luke. And it's impossible for me to not point out as they do this whole cuts between different shots and whatever else, that there's hard-hitting Reylo evidence within this trailer, because there is a super close-up of the hand touching from The Last Jedi, which is the ultimate kind of Reylo go-to evidence. If you don't know what Reylo is, I mean, you're not on Tumblr, I guess, but Reylo is the
It's the ship.
fans of. It's a ship, yeah. It's a ship between those two characters.
We've passed on all we know. A 1,000 generations live in you now.
And it's not a ship that I would say I'm not like Reylo number 2 fan, but it's definitely something that I think is probably very likely, to be honest. It's not something I'm shipping, but it's something that I accept that is probably just what's happening.
You're letting the ship into the harbor.
Yeah, I'm opening the gates.
You're turning on the lighthouse so it can have safe passage.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm open to the Reylo ship, I guess, especially because I can't not watch The Last Jedi and just be like, it seems pretty fucking obvious to me, to be honest. But like,
Yeah.
if anyone wants to argue that, you know, how do you feel on the Reylo ship, everyone? Like Ash, yay,
board.
nay, on board. Ciaran,
Fits into the Ben Demption storyline.
Look, if people stay on with the podcast for the longest way, at the end of the Last Jedi episode, I might give out my fan fiction username, and you can check out some fan fiction I've written about this very topic. But yeah, no, I like it. I think it makes sense, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, how do they pursue it now? Like, I have a theory that And I think I won't go into the theory yet because we talk about it later on, and I'll get to that theory when we talk about it. So, but yeah, I'm on board.
Okay. So then we see we get into the new stuff from this D23 thing finally, which is we see our heroes once again, similar shot that we've seen in the teaser before, but from different angles, and we actually see what's happening. And it's on the planet Pisana, which is the sand planet that we see in all the teaser trailers and stuff like that. This planet was revealed in the Variety article, which released February, March, I don't know, like really early in the year. It was before even the teaser trailer dropped. Was this Variety article that dropped and gave us lots of Vanity Fair. Thank you. Fuck, sorry. Yeah, you're right. I keep saying Fair. Vanity Fair article, which is where we got our first look at like Carrie Russell's
Funny
character.
story, that magazine is finally here in Australia.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think the reason I always fuck up name is because, I never see it anyway, but it's big in America. It's like the cover story, it's Star Wars on it. Why couldn't they fucking release it in Australia where I could have brought this cover? I would have brought it just to own the cover.
No,
Goddamn.
like, the copy is actually out now.
What? Just now it released? This Star Wars issue?
Because of shipping and stuff.
It took 4 months
They
to
take
get
forever
here?
to get here. Yeah. I mean, you can get it airship, but it's like heaps more expensive. It's like
Yeah, no
double
thank
price.
you. No thank you.
And that was your magazine update brought to you by Ashley Hobley.
Yes, this came out in May.
Oh, May. Okay.
End of May is when this came out.
So on the planet Pisana, we see what looks like you got this whole, I wouldn't call it a town. It's kind of like a shanty town, I guess, at most, or something like that. But kites, it looks like up in the
I
air.
know.
Lots
It
of
looks like Burning Man to me.
Yeah,
Or
it
what
looks
I imagine
exactly
Burning
like
Man is.
Star Wars Burning Man. That's exactly what I think as well. And in the Vanity Fair article, you can see some of what the people that live on this planet, creatures and stuff, what they look like. They've got like the tall, like I don't know. It's weird. I don't know why we're here, what our heroes want here, what we're doing here, but it's interesting. Of course, I'm glad that it's not just a sand planet with a bunch of fucking bounty hunters and huts and shit like that again. Like Jakku, ship planet, bunch of scumbags live there. Tatooine, ship planet, bunch of scumbags live there. This sand planet, Burning Man. This is different. A little bit different.
Maybe.
So then
we'll see.
We'll see, yeah. Then we see a bunch of rebel ships that pop out
Sand
of
has a
hyperspace.
negative effect on people.
Fucking hell.
That's why you keep sand in your pockets, and if somebody comes to attack you, you throw sand at them and run. That's the Vader repellent strategy, everyone. God!
How many random Darth Vader cosplayers try and attack you during the week?
Well, you've always got to be ready. You just keep, what you do is you get like, you line the inside of your pocket with like a Stay Fresh bag, and you just line it and you just put your sand in there, doesn't and then it easily quickly comes out and cha, and like they cough a lot. Have you ever heard Vader coughing on sand? It's quite amusing.
Gets all into a ventilation system.
Yeah, you just get it all over. That's why Vader hates sand still, because he just gets worse with sand. He hates sand when he's a human, he's just breathing sand, and then he becomes a robot thing on a ventilator system. Have you tried to clean sand out of a ventilator? It's got to be a pain in the ass.
Literally. So next shot we see is a bunch of rebel ships that pop out of hyperspace. These include X-Wings, B-Wings, A-Wings, along with what looks like a CR-92, which is a blockade runner, much like the Tentative 4, which is the main ship from New Hope, plus the end of Rogue One, I guess. A whole array of rebel ships, of course, which is interesting because the last time we saw the rebels, what was left of them, it was one ship. It was the it was basically just the Millennium Falcon. In the comics, post that, they confirmed like there is a couple of X-Wings, because like in the Poe Dameron comic, they were like, what the fuck, where the fuck is Snap Wexley and all these other characters? Like, what were they doing at this point? Because we never see him in that movie, and they were off on some other mission. So there's the Millennium Falcon plus Poe's Black Squadron, which is a couple X-Wings as well. So that's what they have confirmed, I guess, so far.
And then they paid Benicio del Toro for more ships.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
What a trustworthy guy. We should do a whole, section on Canto Blight to get the ships.
I mean, maybe they will. Maybe they will. Maybe if JJ just does it.
They shouldn't. That'd be like the biggest middle finger to so many people.
I would love a good old middle finger like that.
Who doesn't like a middle finger?
Yeah. I do wonder, though, because we are doing like a time gap. I can't. They've said it's like a couple of years or something like that, I think. I can't remember if they said exactly what it is, but at least it's at least over a year. Maybe it's a year and a half, 2 years or something like that. So
Seems like it's like, based on that timeline they showed at D23, it seems like it's a few years.
Yeah.
There's a big enough gap.
It's a
on
big
scale
enough
with
gap.
everything else.
Yeah. It's a big enough gap that by the time we start this movie, it's probably going to be like there's going to be a time for the First Order to have got a real grasp on the galaxy, I guess, but also time for a rebellion to kind of pick up some ships and stuff like that. But maybe they don't really need to explain it to me, honestly. You start the movie, there's more people here, they got some more ships. It's a few years later, I'm like, cool. I don't need to know. I don't.
You just need to start the movie with Wayne and Garth going across the screen, going
yeah, something like that. Well, it's like if you want to explain how they got all these extra people to join, I could nearly almost guarantee that's what one of the fucking books or something will probably go over anyway. So, but for the movie, is it important to know? No, I don't think so. Then we get my favorite shot from this whole trailer, which is a shot of what looks like hundreds of Star Destroyers hiding within a lightning storm of some description happening. And I think the most important thing about this shot, other than it looks fucking awesome, just like visually, J.J. Abrams has an eye for ship candy, as far as I'm concerned, is they are all original Star Destroyers. They are not First Order ships. They are not First Order destroyers that we have seen throughout any of the movies. All of these ships that you see in this shot, you have not seen since Episode 6. So, and this paired with the information we have of things like, we're bringing a new type of stormtrooper to this movie. It's called the Sith Trooper. Why would that exist? What's the fucking point of that? And then they're showing me in this footage old Star Destroyers. I'm like, And then in the extended universe material, they've introduced throughout the last couple of years all this idea of Palpatine exploring the unknown regions of space. And in the Aftermath book series, which basically covers what happens directly after Episode 6 ends, and the Battle of Jakku, which is basically the final battle before the Rebel Alliance actually wins at that time. They in all of that, they basically cover that Palpatine in his what's the word? I can't remember the fucking word for it. Like when you die, contingency plan. His contingency plan is to send a bunch of what's left of the Empire off into the unknown regions. So this is all being covered in the books and stuff, and people always thought that's kind of where the First Order, they must have hung out in the unknown regions, and that's why the galaxy never discovered that the First Order was getting together and building up their forces, because they kind of come out of nowhere, right? You know, hundreds of people, hundreds, thousands, millions, however many there are, the First Order, they come out of fucking nowhere. But I've always assumed they come out of the remnants of the Empire, and they've come out of the unknown region. And maybe that is true, but also to a point, what if some of those ships and people were out in the unknown regions, still putting together an army? What if a bunch of these ships were sent out here? And what if one of the things to do with this movie, and this is actually a theory that I quite enjoy quite a lot, because it adds a new card to the table, one way to put it, is it's not going to be Rey and our heroes versus just Kylo and the First Order. Potentially you have Rey, our heroes, Kylo, First Order, Snoke and his Palpatine and his army, or something along those lines. You know, maybe he's returned from within the outer regions and he's bringing his own fucking army back, and maybe he comes up and he's like, Kylo, get the fuck back, join my army. And Kylo, of course, would be like, get fucked, and like wave his fucking lightsaber around like the teenager child he is. But yeah, how do you feel about the idea that Palpatine isn't going to be this like presence that kind of comes in randomly or whatever else, but like actually a third player to the game? You know, it's not just First Order versus Rey. It potentially could be Empire, First Order, however you want to put it. Ash?
I mean, it's an interesting theory. I don't know. I find it hard to believe that Palpatine's been in the background for so long, I guess.
I can't. not with just minor things that have minor things that I've read or seen about it now is kind of, I don't know. I could see it happening. He's crafty. He's a little bugger.
That's the quote of the episode. He's a little bugger.
He's a little bugger. Sorry, Ash.
It's fine.
What was you going to say?
I don't know. It seems like anybody who falls down a big hole seems to come out fine afterwards. So that's how he died, isn't it?
Well, last time we saw him, he was falling down the shaft, the hole or whatever.
You know, everybody survives that. Palpatine, Darth Maul, Han.
No.
Sorry. Do we want to redo that or
No.
No.
Siths who fall down giant holes are fine.
Yeah. So the next shot we see C3PO with red eyes, which the internet has been super focused on for some reason. I don't really care for this shot. I think it's just I literally think this shot's in here just to have the internet kind of be like flipping their mind over potentially that's nothing. I think the idea of C3PO turning bad is not going to happen.
Hold up. Could. So we've got, the Jedi and the light side seem to have Force ghosts. What if Palpatine comes back as a Sith ghost, but he somehow possesses C-3PO?
No.
No. Come on, stay with me. Like, C-3PO is now the embodiment of Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah, that would be a bad idea.
Oh.
One, C-3PO is like the worst droid.
You can't when you're a
least
Sith
effective.
ghost. When you're a Sith ghost, you've not got many powers, so you've got to find something to dwell in. And who's gonna consider C-3PO?
Take one of the what's the one from Rogue One? At least those ones seem to move around pretty well.
I don't know. It'd be too obvious.
Which ones?
The one, like the main droid from
Rogue
One.
Oh,
I can't remember his digits.
Alan Tudyk.
I can't
Alan
remember
Tudyk.
his digits.
K2SO or something like that.
Yeah, that's it. K2SO. That's literally
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
One of those
Got
droids.
him. So there is a evil C3PO basically in the comics. It's a character called 000, which is it's the same sort of droid as it. It's in the Dr. Afara comics plus the Darth Vader comic, and they show up also in the main Star Wars line of comics. And it's literally an R2 droid and a C3PO droid. Like, it basically looks like R2-D2 and C3PO, kinda, except for it's like the evil versions. They're literally droids that have red eyes that glow, and it's because their programming is actually evil. Like, C3PO is all about, human cyborg relations. I fucking know a million languages. Well, 000's whole thing is, I am programmed in sadistic ways to torture people, and that's my skills. That's what I do. That's a thing. So, I don't know. Like, they've done the whole red eyes glow on droids when they're bad, apparently, thing. But, I mean, I'm also like, well, I don't know. Like,
maybe it's a face-off situation.
Maybe. Maybe they activate they put C3PO into battle mode or something. But also, Anthony Daniels, like, while he was all at Star Wars Celebration this year, he kept doing like subtle things. Well, not even subtle. He kept doing his whole thing of being like, no one ever keeps their eyes on C3PO anymore, but just saying he might know more than everyone trusts him for. People might need to pay more attention to him and all these sorts of things. So after that, people kept saying like, oh yeah, maybe C3PO in this movie will have like he's got hidden information deep inside him or something like that, and it could have been there since prequel era time, something really important hidden
Maybe.
inside him or something along those lines.
It could be a flashback. His arms are gold, so
I don't know.
Maybe his red arm is an evil arm.
Maybe it's just I love to think about the red arm. Have you seen that I've got a red arm? Yes, we know C3PO. We're aware. Very aware. So then we see the next shot is we see a huge mountain or something along those lines, and it's being blasted with what looks like a similar type of ray or blast of laser beam or something, similar to Starkiller Base type deal happening.
Confirmed, Starkiller Base 2.
Yeah. So I would say, judging off just this one shot, I would definitely be like, I don't think we're going to have a Starkiller Base 2, but I wouldn't put it past them to be working on something. I don't feel like this movie is going to be like, yeah, we've got a fully functioning Starkiller Base 2 or something like that. But at the same time, I think if they just imply or show at one point in the movie that they're actually working on another one, as long as it doesn't become the main point of the movie to destroy that thing, because that would just be fucking tedious at this point, I'm not against them showing that they are working on one, as long as it's just not important to the main story or plot, you know? Like they're just like, they're working on one, whatever. It just shows that they're doing it, which would make sense because, you know, honestly, you take the keys away from nuclear weapons. Yeah, because they're just going to keep fucking trying to build these massive weapons. Whatever. Ciaran?
I don't like. It would make sense if they were working on something, because if you weren't working on something, then, you know, what are you really doing? It's an evil order. But at the same time, let's not make it an important plot point.
Yeah, that's my one hang up.
How about, to shake it up, the good guys make a big planet-destroying weapon?
I feel like that's against their character as we know it, but, you know, we'll see. Let's see what happens. See how that one plays out for you. You know, if you want to use one of your predictions later in the year as that's your free will, you know. So next thing we see is Rey in this forest, which by the way, I'm gonna chuck it out there. Fuck it. There's this shot where she's in a forest. There's also the shot of Leia that we see where she's in the forest. I'm gonna say that Leia is helping train Rey, and this is all from the very start of the movie, and it's taking place on Endor.
Ooh,
big calls. We're not even at the prediction show yet, and we're already getting predictions.
Yeah, just checking that there because
it does remind you of Endor, but any forest could potentially.
Yeah,
remind
that's
you of
true.
Endor.
But I'm just looking to. I mean, if we're going to the Death Star 2, which would be close, then, you know, just saying they could be training on Endor before then.
Nah, the Death Star, when it blew up, went a very long way. Like, it went into hyperspace and then landed somewhere else.
I literally watched a video on this like a year or so ago before this came out, right? Someone did a video that was like, if the Death Star fell, it would actually blow, like, it would fall this far, and then the planet it hit. Oh, they did it about Battlefront 2, when Battlefront 2 released, because the start of Battlefront 2 starts on Endor, right? And when the Death Star blows up, you try to escape Endor and like get after it or whatever else. But they were like, if the fucking Death Star was real and it fell, it would hit that planet that they were on, and it would just blow up. It would like kind of hit that planet and it would just implode, you know, from given how the size of the Death Star is. But, you know, Star Wars isn't exactly science fiction. Star Wars is fantasy, in case you did not know. If you want more sci-fi, that's why Star Trek exists, and that's why a TV show is very fucking boring. Then, because the thing we also see here to confirm that Rey is actually training is the shot where she actually throws her lightsaber across the room, and cuts down that tree. She's actually throwing it at a training droid. It's just very easy to miss if you're not paying too much attention to the trailer. She's not just throwing that saber through a tree. There is actually a training droid there. So she's obviously doing some sort of training here, and I presume she just kind of spits it and fucking throws her lightsaber across the room. The training droid at the last second kind of moves out of the way, luckily, so she doesn't actually destroy it. And then they follow this up with a shot of her force pulling the lightsaber back to her, which is cool, of course. But yeah, everyone I saw when this shot came out were like, oh, she's just getting angry for no reason. I'm like, no, she's fucking like spitting with the training droid and like fucking chucking a lightsaber across the room. But at the same time, that's interesting because it shows that, you know, Jedi aren't supposed to get angry and chuck their fucking lightsabers across the room when they fuck up the high score on Gallagher fucking lightsaber edition, you know? So then we hear Palpatine say the line of, your journey nears its end, as we see Kylo get out of the interceptor that we saw from the teaser trailer. It's behind him in this shot, and he kind of pulls his lightsaber across the ground. It's a very cool shot. Well, to be fair, lots of the shots of this are very cool. J.J. Abrams Not a bad director. And then we cut to a shot, which I'm going to say is completely unrelated. Like, because the shot they cut to is Rey and Kylo fighting on the Death Star. And the shot before this of him getting out of that interceptor, that seems to be on like a completely different planet to me. I don't think they... Yeah, that's snow. This is not snow. They don't connect to me. So it's just very much like trailer trickery. I don't think they're connected at all.
I think they just, came together pretty well.
Yeah, it works out for the trailer. And then we see Rey and Kylo fighting atop of the Death Star 2 in the water from obviously taking some time after what we saw in the first teaser trailer. Very cool to actually see them actually fighting because, of course, one of the biggest complaints people had about The Last Jedi, well, among the million things, was that they actually never fight, They never actually fight properly. Have a lightsaber
against each other,
against one another. No. So, and what we see here, I love this shot. Like, I've watched this thing a few times, and every time I'm like, this is cool. This looks good. I like the shot. I like the way it's being put together. I'm looking forward to seeing how JJ.
I hope the fight choreography is a bit better. I recently watched a video by Corridor that was looking at the fight choreography at the end of Last Jedi. And it has ruined that scene for me. Like, it is absolutely ruined that scene for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've all seen that video, and it's definitely going to come up when we discuss The Last Jedi. As much as I like that movie, that same Corridor video has ruined that fight scene for me.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. We were all in love with that. Everybody was putting different songs to it. But now.
Yeah.
One-on-one,
I like
the
what I'm seeing.
choreography will be much easier.
But yeah, I was about to say, the most important thing about this is that the complaint about that scene is that the Praetorian guards, or no, the red, whatever they call it, I can't remember, red guards, they're the ones that kind of causing problems with that fight scene, whereas this is just Rey versus Kylo, so it's like you can't have the same sort of problems occur, really. Then we have, then we hear Vader. Although I don't think it's really relevant, I think the Vader thing is just chucked in for style. And we see what looks like a very robotic-looking Rey, like a droid version of Rey or something like that. And she's holding a lightsaber, and it kind of unfolds down and lights up to be a double-sided red saber. It's worth noting that we have actually seen this type of saber in both the animated series of Rebels and Clone Wars before. In fact, there is a Jedi Master in Clone Wars who actually has this same type of lightsaber. And then in Rebels, the Grand Inquisitor, no, not Grand, the fucking Grand, like, I can't remember the name of the character, but it's been in Rebels and Clone Wars as well. So this lightsaber exists just in animated territory. Because I saw people being like, fuck, they're going ridiculous with lightsabers, now they're unfolding down. I'm like, this shit's from like 10 years ago, really. Like, the design is from 10 years ago, start with. But, so Ash, what do you think here? Rey going bad? Rey, is it just a vision?
There needs to be balance in the Force, and if Ben's coming back to the light side.
Fucking hell.
No, it's got to be some sort of vision or something, like Palpatine messing with Kylo Ren's head. Surely.
Ciaran?
Surely.
Ciaran, what do you think?
It's I don't know why they chose this to be the ending shot of this trailer, other than almost a cheap grab at shock and awe, where it's supposed to add more questions, but I don't feel like it does add more questions, because I think we're pretty set in the way that Rey is, that I don't think this is a possibility of actually happening.
I feel like for hardcore fans like us, but maybe like people who just go see these movies when they come out one time.
Yeah, the chumps.
Yeah, they'll be like, what the hell?
What the hell, man? Rey's
when this plays in a theater, what the hell?
I mean, the thing for me, and a lot of people are still debating about this, and I don't think it's up for a debate at all, but and that's simply because from the moment we see that close-up of her face, and because it looks so off, but I think it's done on purpose because it's supposed to look like Luke in episode 5, where he strikes off the helmet of Vader and he sees himself on the inside, that very dummy looking Luke on the inside. And I think this is supposed to look exactly or very similar to that type of thing, which then to me means that this is definitely a vision of a similar caliber, although I don't think it's on Dagobah.
This is like the overall embodiment of Rey's temptations or Rey's beliefs of what could happen if she went over to the dark side.
Definitely, I feel like this is probably going to happen when she touches an object. Because you remember when she touched, obviously, Luke's the lightsaber the first time in Force Awakens, she had that vision, saw Luke and whatever else and had all these things calling out. I definitely feel like this is going to be caused by her touching another sort of object. And I would say that whatever that object is going to be whatever they're going to the Death Star 2 for, which is probably most likely something to do with the Palpatine himself, I'd say. Like, the MacGuffin of the movie has to be something to do with Palpatine. And I think it's going to be inside Death Star 2. Something to do with him. And I guess when she touches it, dark energy, Sith artifact or something like that, she'll get a vision of a bunch of stuff. And this is going to be one of the things she sees. I think that's pretty... To me, it's simple enough. It doesn't even be overthought. Lots of people are debating, will she actually turn and come back and all this stuff? I'm like, look, this movie's probably going to be like 2.5 hours long or whatever the fuck it is, but...
We don't have a time for a heel turn.
We don't have time for that.
A face turn back, yeah.
Yeah, that's too much. They would have needed to have her turn evil last movie and then in this movie have her come back good or something like that. If that's the storyline they wanted to tell. Like, you can't do that in the last movie. Come on.
Your journey. Nears its end.
And that's all we have so far. So the only last question I have to ask before we wrap up this episode is, how do you feel about what we've seen so far? So we've seen a trailer, we've seen D23 footage, barely any. We have the poster, we have the Vanity Fair article. It is September. That's all we've got. Are you perfectly fine with what we're doing? Does the lack of material make you scared? Or you're like, yeah, the marketing will kick in fucking next month or something. Ash?
No, I think they're playing it perfectly. I think they're going very much like Endgame, which had very limited trailers and information leading up to it, and that made a little bit of money. It did reasonably well at the box office. So I think they're trying to go a similar route.
Yeah. Ciaran?
I'd be worried if they started pushing out too much marketing. Like, if they were trying too hard to market this movie, I'd be too worried that they were too concerned with the audience perception from The Last Jedi, as if they're trying to bring people back too much or they're trying too much to save face. I think, even though Last Jedi had its critics and there was lots of them, you're still fucking Star Wars. Like, you're still Star Wars. Like, you're still this massive franchise, and you're gonna draw a decent audience, and it's gonna get multiple viewings. Like, I don't know. I'd be worried if they were starting to market too much. I think we're okay.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I definitely feel like once you hit December, you're going to start getting your TV spots anyway. I personally pretty much always ignore those as much as I can, because they put out like 20 TV spots and I can piece together like 20 minutes of footage by the end of them. So that'll probably still happen because that's kind of obligated, but probably get a trailer. I guess the next one we would get would be, I would say, what's like a big... Is there like a big sport event that comes up towards the end of the year or something?
No, there's nothing. There's nothing like a Super Bowl or anything in between now and then.
No.
Yeah. So then I'll say that the next one will probably be a Good Morning America thing or something like that. Is probably where they'll drop it. Like, because if there's nothing else big happening, because Disney owns that Good Morning America or whatever the channel or whatever it is. That's where they've dropped trailers previously. ABC, yeah, that's where they've dropped trailers previously. So I would say that's kind of what will happen. We'll get our first proper trailer. They'll probably announce it ahead of time and be like 9 a.m. American time tomorrow morning. First trailer, here we go. So, but I don't reckon they'll be till like mid-October-ish, early October-ish or something like that.
Well, they released the toys like 4th of October is when they're slated.
Yeah. So probably
Triple Force Friday. So maybe around then.
which wasn't that big last year, but for The Force Awakens when they did it, because it was the first time there was like so many new toys for so long, it was fucking massive. And I remember I went into town to look for stuff, and even here, everything was sold out. I walked into my local toy world, and the lady was just like, "You looking for Star Wars?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "It's gone." One guy brought like nearly all of it, and I was like, "Oh, fucking hell." Okay, well that's it. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Alderaan Explosion. Next week we'll be discussing The Phantom Menace, so make sure you watch the movie before next week's episode so you're up to date, or don't, up to you. Please share the show on social media and tag @ExplosionPod if you're enjoying it. Tell your friends and rate it on Apple Podcasts or Podchaser, of course. Alderaan Explosion is a Darth production of ExplosionNetwork.com, which you can find, where you can also find our movie and TV podcast, What Do You Want to Watch, which comes out fortnightly. I'd suggest you check out that one as well if you're into watching things. You can follow me on Twitter @VivaLadil, VIVALADIL. You can follow Ash on Twitter @Ashley Holby, SHLEYHOBLEY. You can follow Ciaran on Twitter @YourBoyRingo. May the Force be with you always.